Alrighty, people.
It
And that was an extra long one.
was a little extra long.
You know what it actually sounds like? I watch a lot of war movies. Love war. Any war content. World War II, obsessed with it. World War One. And when you do that, it actually sounds like the alarms when there's about to be a bombing. It's like
Do you know what?
the
Do you know what it is? Like, do you know like what year it is? Like,
tell me.
do you know what that actually is?
Educate me.
It's basically like
you've done that for multiple years, and I just thought, yeah, that's his thing. That's his brand.
Oh, really? Hold on.
What is it?
It's basically like a New York thing. It's basically like it's kind of like saying "What's up" or like,
Gotcha.
Brooklyn. I don't know. It's that's basically the way the best way I could explain it. So like,
Brooklyn, you're Badaki.
You know how like when you see somebody like walking, like you're walking across, like you're walking,
yeah,
and you see like your friend on the other side of the street walking the opposite way, you go like you, like you're, you know, like you get, and then they'll say something. Anyways,
I just thought I would yell, coffee, I'm walking here. But okay, yeah, that's great to know.
Yeah.
What's up?
Greeting.
What's up, people? Welcome. But do you get where I'm coming from? Do you know like those movies and like the war?
I'll be honest with you, I don't like war movies. I actually don't like them. They are. I just don't like war movies because I just genuinely find them sad. Like
Sure.
it's. I think it's very educational.
Yeah.
They're just sad. Like it always ends up with people dying.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
if the
like,
Nazis actually won and took over the world, it would be a sad ending.
Well,
but
it's more
at
like,
least you get like the good defeats evil.
Yeah, but it's always like, well, John Bob Cooter actually died and he's no longer with us.
John
you know,
Bob
like, oh
Cooter.
shit. Like,
Oh yeah, well, you get to see the sacrifice. I mean,
yeah, and I think that's what sucks. Like,
one of my family
actually
members,
really appreciate it.
One of my family members who will remain unnamed said, "We need another war." He's like talking about the state of the world right now. He said, "We need another war because we're worried about things that are ridiculous." And I was like, "Damn, son." Anyway, what's up, people? Welcome in. How to get canceled 101. Anyway, what's up? Welcome in. Thanks for joining us. Go ahead and hit that like button to show some love. We're excited to be here with you. Derek's in the chat. He says, "Salute, y'all. Salute."
There you go. Salute. A nice little war.
We see
war
WG,
thing.
how you darn? Theo, how you darn? Mighty, how you darn? Derek says it's a Philly thing. I do it all the time, he says. So it's Philly.
Oh, there you go.
Philly
thing as well.
Find me on the block. And Warsaw says, I'm curious about Zach and Badaki's origin story. They should make a documentary, shouldn't they?
They
how
really
you
should.
guys meet and decide to do this together. It would be a very boring documentary. But, I mean, essentially, we both decided to travel abroad after high school. Both American born and raised.
That's right.
And we studied in Australia. And both moved to Sydney after high school and ended up being housemates. That's why we've got these tattoos, 18C, 18 Corumbin.
You know what's actually funny?
Yeah.
That we don't mention often? We actually met, the first time I met you was on Super Bowl.
Yes, it was a Super
Patriots,
Bowl.
Patriots and Falcons.
Yep, the 28-3 game. And I was annoyed because my housemates invited this random person over because you weren't living with us yet.
No.
And like we got some English housemates and so, and I was like, guys, like I don't want to like meet someone on Super Bowl. I don't care about this person. I want to watch the Super Bowl. It's like I don't care about meeting new people right now. I want to be locked in. Which was funny. That's the first time I met you. And
what's funny is I actually left early.
You were so timid.
Yeah, and I left early because I was like, this is fucking over. The family friendly stream.
That's right. I remember that.
And I was like, I left early and I went like back to school.
Yeah.
And when I got back to school, it was tied.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then obviously Tom Brady did his thing.
Yeah.
But that's the first time we met. Then Badaki moved into our house, and I mean the memes go from there. Like I said, 18C. We lived with a group of 11 guys in a 5-bedroom house, and
it actually was.
It was chaos.
A frat. It was a frat.
It felt like that. Yeah. It felt like that. And where's your tat on your wrist?
It's on. Yeah, it's on my wrists.
Yeah. 18C. The address was 18 Corbin. Anyway, we were friends and housemates and did a lot of stupid shit together. A lot of good things together. A lot of dumb things together. And then when COVID hit, we both lost our jobs. We said, hey, let's start a podcast. So we actually started a podcast originally, and the podcast was based around our friends' league. We weren't even covering fantasy. Like we were just talking about our league. We had fun doing it, and then eventually we started talking fantasy, and we actually didn't go hard on YouTube until a year after we started our podcast, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. If you guys really want to know a little bit more on how we originally started, look at us now. Watch the most recent video, and then go watch our very first video. You're saying, holy shit.
It's so bad.
You're going to say, holy shit. You would actually be proud of us. I'm proud of us, and I think everyone would be as well.
Yeah.
Because we were struggling back in the day.
Yeah, that was rough. I mean, well, you know what? The Dynasty channel wouldn't even show you our first ever video. You'd have to go to the redraft channel.
Yeah, it would have to be the redraft.
It'd have to be Fantasyland Football. And let's have a look here. The first ever video on Fantasyland Football. Yes, this was 3 years ago. And we literally did an intro to the league where we... this is the intro song we made.
I actually don't even remember that.
That's my voice.
Yes, the
Oh no!
I don't think anyone can hear. I can't hear. Or maybe they can hear, but they can't hear.
Oh, that is rough. Oh wait, yeah, they can't hear because I didn't have desktop audio on. Here. Y'all want to hear that intro? First ever podcast.
Welcome.
I made this song. This is my voice right here.
To the fantasy land.
Let me tell you though, the branding is still fire as it was back in the day.
Well, we've made it. We are here. Fantasyland Football Podcast, episode
That
1.
football is the one.
I
wonky,
am
though,
your
if you
host,
look
Zach
at it.
Savage,
That
along
football
with my
is-
co-host, Daniel Padaki. Padaki, man, it's good to see you today.
Oh, what a classic! I look terrible.
Yeah, it was rough. But I'm pretty sure didn't we have like clips? Yes, we had clips of our friends. We were talking shit about the league. Here's one about Daniel Ilioy, who worked for Apple. Here's one from Burnsy. And again, this is what the podcast started off as, guys. Just us talking to our friends.
I love Ilio's wearing the Apple shirt as well.
Hold on.
You can call me what you want, JB or whatever. I don't know. I'll respond.
Anyway, the JB on there. I mean, yeah, that was what it looked like, and it was rough, but we did it. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about today. But that is the origin story. And I mean, there are times where we thought about deleting old stuff, but we were like, honestly, I don't really care anymore. Like, we probably said some dumb stuff. I just think
Apparently,
it's
I'm
fun
echoing, by the way.
Yeah, I fixed that. I just think it's fun to go back and look at what we were. There was a time where we're like, this is awful. Should we delete it? But we were like, nah, who cares? Who cares?
Now we just
Anyway.
it's fun to look at. 121 views. That was like 121 views.
Well,
in like
that wasn't normal though. That was because it was the first one, and we told all of our I had my mom watch it like.
That's
3
actually so
times.
true.
I remember sending the link to every one of my family members. I said, "Look, if you don't even want to listen to it, just put it on in the background. You know, like I don't care if you actually don't want to listen to it." But remember, we were averaging around 48, 50 views, 30 for a while there. And I think a lot of them were just us clicking on the video to like edit it or something. But anyway,
Yeah.
old memes. But we are, here tonight to help people who are supporting the land over on the Flock Fantasy website. So if you are a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND, we are going to be looking at one of your teams tonight. Well, not everyone, but the people who are next up.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into it. But just before we do, I want to let anyone who's watching know, if you want your team reviewed by yours truly, it is a very simple step. All you need to do is become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. And once you do those 2 things, you'll unlock the 2024 Rookie Report, a Dynasty Team Review, Premium Trade Calculator, personalized DMs, complete rankings. All you got to do is go up to the top right, link your Discord in account, and then you should be able to access all of our premium channels, including the roster submissions tab, which is where we're going to be looking at people's teams today. Now, keep in mind, when you do sign up, there is an option to click instant access. That will skip your 7-day free trial. If you don't skip your trial, that's fine. You just got to wait for that trial to end in order to be eligible for a team review. But now that that is in the books, Derek says you came a long way. Maddie says, what's up, fellas? Glad I hopped in time to see the first podcast. Major W. Light goal was 10. You love to see it. What's up, Styles? Welcome in. Welcome in.
It was big, man. We were celebrating. I remember one time we woke up like, oh shit, we got 500 views.
Oh, 100%. I remember the first time we hit like 1,000. We were like, holy hell, this is awesome. Because guys, that is just the nature of YouTube, and specifically this industry. It's very niche, and I know a lot of people want to start and get into the industry, but you have to have very low expectations, and you have to be consistent. You can't stop. You got to keep grinding if it's actually something that you care about and that you love. But anyway, Preston says, how many teams are in the queue for a team review? How long is the turnaround from sign up to review? Typically within 7 days, everyone's team is reviewed. Keep in mind, though, if you do opt for the free trial, you have to wait 7 days to be eligible anyway, right? So if you hit instant access, you might get it done a little bit earlier, but we just go in order. We knock through as many as we can, and typically I'd say 7 days, a week's time at max for most people. But we are diving in to some teams tonight. We might do Fordejake's last. I know he's not here with us. So the first team we're actually going to look at is Zinner21. We're going to look at his team here tonight. And I will go ahead and put in his league ID. And Badaki, do you want to start us off with a little context?
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull it up here. All right. Zinner said, what's up, fellas? Congrats to Badaki and your baby. Appreciate you. Just had our baby girl in January, and all those late nights allowed me to stumble upon Zach's videos. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of cool the way to discover the vlog. That's amazing. That's really
cool.
really cool. Really looking forward to hearing you guys, to my opinions. Okay, let's go to the context. We appreciate you. League format, 12 teams, SuperFlex, start 9, no title premium.
He says, apologies if I can't join the stream, so he's probably not with us.
Yeah, if he's not with us, that's fine.
And that's okay.
I was just yeah. 12 teams, SuperFlex, start 9, no tight end premium, full PPR, and 6-point passing touchdowns. So you have the ability to start, looks like 5 wide receivers. Okay. Some context, going into my 3rd year of the league, I have never done a dynasty before. In my first year, I made some bad trades. Trading some high picks for win now players. I didn't realize I drafted the startup so poorly. Right, okay. Before the first trade deadline, got some picks back and traded some aging players. Made a great deal for JJ, which is Justin Jefferson, I'm assuming, or maybe Josh Jacobs. We'll wait and see. Going into year 2, sold more players, monster deals, which I traded Bryce Young, CMC, Rashad White, and Ridley for Gibbs, Garrett Wilson, and a first, now the 112. I don't mind that trade going younger there. Gibbs, Wilson, and a first, the 112. You were hoping that's the risk that you took, hoping that first round pick was going to be higher. But look, the 112 is still really valuable right now in this draft here. So
I'd agree. I think the way I look at it is like Gibbs over CMC pretty easily in Dynasty right now. Garrett Wilson is worth more than Rashad White and Ridley. And then that 112 and Bryce Young, I'm not going to say it's like even, but it's not far off of market value. I think you got the better quality long-term piece. But it doesn't mean we don't like Bryce Young.
Yeah, 100%. Traded that pick and Ingram for a different team's first, now the 106. Okay, so you send the 112 and Ingram for the 106. That's amazing. You tier up to one of those wide receivers that you like and or quarterback, depending on how your team looks. Before we look into it, also traded Romeo Doubs for Miller and a 25-second for Mayer.
Miller being...
I'm assuming Kendrick. So you traded Romeo Doubs for Kendrick Miller in a 25-second.
Wait, Dobbs for Miller.
I'm assuming
that's straight up.
That's straight up, and then a
5
5-second for mayor.
After watching my buy low, love that.
Okay, that's awesome. I don't mind that trade either.
Premium?
It's not tied in premium.
Okay.
I would love to be able to add a quarterback and a wide receiver at the 101 and the 106. Bowers is likely going at the 104 based on my talks with that team. So I think it's more likely a quarterback falls to the 106 rather than Neighbors.
That's risky.
Which makes me want to take Marvin Harrison Jr. at the 101 and get one of May or Daniels at the 106. I'm curious to hear your thoughts and opinions on the logic. Otherwise, I'm also thinking of tearing down from the 101 to get more assets if I have any recommendations. Okay, I think that might be the way potentially on the context. Anyways, I like to start trying to compete this year with a young core and draft capital I have. I'm open to moving some picks and help fill out the rest of the roster. Looking forward to hearing what you guys
can we just start with that first thing that he said? This is non-tight end premium, right?
Mm-hmm.
No tight end premium. He says he thinks Bowers is going at the 104. I don't think that team is lying to you right now, but I also do not see a scenario in which in a non-tight end premium format, Bowers is actually going to end up at the 104. I don't think so. I just don't see that happening. I could be wrong. So to me, we will talk about it, but I would not bank on May, Daniels, or Neighbors at the 106 in a non-tight end premium format. So we'll talk about that, but just from the get-go, would you agree with me? Like, that team might feel that way right now. They might need a tight end right now, but as the NFL draft happens, as other things happen, I'm not sure that that's actually what they will do.
Yeah, I would agree.
Okay. So we have, remember, 12-team SuperFlex, start 9, no tight end premium, 6-point passing touchdown. And our team name is Pitt's Redemption Tour, which is great because that's the perfect name for him this year. This is the year.
Don't mind it. All right, and look, you're still in the second amongst your league here, being 95 ranked, behind TDs. You love to see it.
A remix.
Honestly. Quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson, Jameis Winston, Mason Rudolph, Ryan Tannehill, and Malik Willis here. And I think that makes more sense of potentially why we would want to maybe keep that 101.
No, and this is Caleb Williams at the 101.
Yeah, I think this is what we'll both do. And you ride with Caleb Williams and Deshaun Watson. You still have your own 25 first. And maybe we can somehow get some good value on a quarterback late in the first or early second, depending on what that looks like. So Caleb Williams at the 101 there, still with Deshaun Watson, who has that quote-unquote long-term contract. That's going to be your QB2, who I still believe in. Probably not that top 5 guy that he used to be, but I would say at least top 12 he can still be, in my opinion.
Can you correct me if I'm wrong? We're going to dive into this team, but looking at this quarterback room, it's not good. I would probably suggest trying to go double quarterback at the 101 or the 106 if possible. We won't force it or anything, but it's certainly the way that I would be hoping the draft panned out. I don't know if you would agree with that, but like Watson, I want as a QB3.
Yeah, I think so. I think there's a couple scenarios that we can go, because I was thinking of potentially maybe tearing down from, I know he made the trade for JJ, but maybe once the whiteboard comes out, we can potentially, get some more depth that we still believe in, than rather having just Justin Jefferson and Garrett Wilson, if you kind of get what I'm saying.
No, I get you. Yeah. But sorry, continue.
Yeah. So running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, Kendre Miller, and Keaton Mitchell. I think it kind of just falls from there. Jahmyr Gibbs, I think, was a perfect trade target, which you got. Kendre Miller, I think, has been on both of our radars, both of our videos, saying that he is somebody we're happy to invest in, especially once or if Alvin Kamara is cut or traded, if they want to save some money there. And Kendre Miller is clearly going to be the lead back if that happens.
Yeah, I agree. This is a fine running back room at this point of the season. Agreed? Like, we're not looking at it like we're 100% feeling incredible heading into the year, but we're not looking at it as like, I need to make a move right now before free agency, before the draft, without knowing anything. Like, we're fine to kind of like play this patiently, if you agree. But
yeah, I completely agree at the running back room. The wide receiver room: Justin Jefferson, Garrett Wilson, Jordan Addison, Josh Downs, Rondo Moore, Zay Flowers, and Kayshawn Booty. Shout out to Booty. And you have the ability to start 5 wide receivers. So JJ, Wilson, Addison, Downs. You are short on depth when we look at this team.
JJ trade? Do we know?
It was.
We don't know, do we? It just said made a great deal for JJ, so we don't actually know what the trade was.
Yeah. And then you have Kyle Pitts and Michael Mayer there at the tight end position. So I think that is probably my first option, is to see how I can pivot to.
Well, how do you feel about the structure of just going through draft first and what that would look like, and then pivots next? Is that okay?
Yeah, 100%.
I feel like my
100%.
brain operates like that as we're covering and checking the boxes.
Mm-hmm.
Scenario 1, we always say stick and pick if this is what were to happen. You and I agree Caleb Williams. This is a Caleb Williams team, right?
Yeah, agreed.
Now, the 106 is interesting because if Bowers somehow goes in the top 5 like he mentioned, we actually would prefer a May or a Daniels for this team. But a Neighbors totally fits this team as well because, like you mentioned, you need to start 5 wide receivers, or you can at least. And right now, I mean, Downs, do I feel like he's a starter on a championship contender? Probably not, but he could develop into that depending on Anthony Richardson. Regardless, if you can add a Neighbors here and a Dunze here, that's really going to help your pick. But there's also a chance where none of those players are available, and you're choosing between a Dunze or Bowers. And Badaki, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we would both strongly suggest a Dunze if that was the options at the pick.
Yeah, I would agree there.
201, what are you thinking?
At the 201, best player available, you hope the Lamb McConkleys. I doubt the Adonai Mitchell's going to be there. The Xavier Worthies. Even at the 201, if Trey Benson is there, it has the capital. Same thing with Jonathan Brooks. We've seen these guys drafted in the top 3 rounds, going to a very, fantasy-friendly teams. I'm willing to take a chance on one of those guys. But at the same time, I think I might want to be sticking at the wide receiver position more than the running back position. Once again, all depends on the draft capital, because if I see someone like a lad that's still available at the 201 and he has good draft capital and he landed on a good team, sure. That could be said with the next set of wide receivers where we can, that list goes on and on.
So, question, do we know if Zinner's in the chat, by the way? I'm just curious if he is in the chat. Let us know if you are in the chat, my man. But I agree with BPA there. McConkey, Mitchell, Worthy, Benson, Brooks. And you can also say BPA at the 211, but it's probably going to be different names there. The wide receiver class is so deep that the amount of people at the 211 is actually kind of crazy, but it starts, I think, around like the Corums of the world, the Wrights of the worlds, the Burtons, Legettes, that's the kind of tier. The McMillans in your leagues, probably he'll be available there. Coleman's and Wilson's, like that's the kind of territory you're looking at there. And then 401, it's way too early to say who the BPA would end up being. But I think, let's say we got Caleb Williams. Let's say the yellow highlights is what we actually ended up with. Caleb Williams, Adunze. Let's say we got Benson, and then we got Roman Wilson, for example, at the 211. That's actually not bad at all, because now our roster in a Superflex format, we've got Caleb Williams, Deshaun Watson. At least we have 2 names that we can start, right? That's already looking a little bit better. At our running back spot, we have Gibbs, Benson, Kendre. If Kendre becomes a starter, we're actually cooking with gas now. At the wide receiver spot, we have Jefferson, Wilson, Addison, Adunze. And then our 5th can be between Downs and Roman Wilson. That feels a lot better. And then at tight end, we're already pretty set. So that is definitely a situation where you're not forcing a player because of a need. You're going best player available, but it also lines up with the needs of your team as well. So
yeah, agreed.
Completely let's talk about another option, which would probably be what kind of trade backs could we do? Because even with this team, I'm not opposed, Badaki, to trading back from the 101. We need a quarterback. I'm not sitting here saying it has to be Caleb Williams. And if the 101 is going to bring you a huge return, can we move to the 102 to the 104-ish range, or even the 105 if you think a quarterback's going to be there?
Well, that's exactly what I've been trying to think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So no, let's walk through that scenario here. I see a super chat. We'll get to a super chat after. We just don't want to interrupt this review. We appreciate you too, Rich. But let's talk about some avenues to trade back from the 101, still get an area of need, still get a fantastic player, and add value to our team long term. So the 101 to the 102 for a quarterback plus value, and let's kind of try and define what that plus value means. What teams have these picks?
Yeah, so the 102 is Goats R Us, which is team 5. He doesn't have a quarterback, so maybe moving up essentially and getting Caleb Williams is really intriguing for him. I'm just not sure he has the depth of somebody that we would want. I see Zay Flowers being there. Is moving back to the 102 plus getting the 102 and Zay Flowers worth it? Maybe in this format.
Certainly not like a natural trade back, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, can you do the 102 and the 111 or the 109? Is that too far back in the draft?
I like that.
That could be something, because the 109, once again, the Adonai Mitchells, maybe the Brian Thomas of the worlds, Xavier Worthies, the Lad McConkeys can also be there at some point. I mean, that range is significant when it comes down to the 109 of who can be there. That can also be another quarterback. JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, one of those guys can fall, and that can instantly change your quarterback room as well.
You could even try and like leverage like a Zay Flowers plus like the 111 if they really wanted Caleb Williams. Not to say that is like 100% doable, but it depends on the person themselves. How about
the 103?
The 103, yeah.
The 103, I'm trying to find, which is team 3. Show me them TDs.
All right,
team 3. So team 3 has CJ Stroud and Jordan Love with Matthew Stafford as their QB.
They could want to trade up for Marvin, though.
They could. So they trade up to get Marvin Harrison Jr., but once again, not a natural trade.
You know what I would try with this team?
Okay.
Something that came to mind, man. Well, look, I think the natural trade that you and I would always say is, can you get 2025 first? Right? 103 for a 2025 first. That's certainly a move you could try with that team. What I was going to say is, can we get a Jordan Love structure? But the issue is he's not probably looking to move Love. He's probably looking to move up to keep Love and get Marvin.
Yeah, that's it.
So that really...
104 is Team 11, Leonard
Foreskin.
There's a little bit more from natural opportunity here. A little bit. The only... I mean, once again,
I
still...
love a JSN 104 move.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the only person I can think of. Because this person that has a 104 is really trying to secure his quarterback. So if you can secure that and get JSN, the 104, and they get Caleb Williams, I think they might really be happy with that. But there's no one else that I want on this team that I feel confident in. Like, yeah, we can talk about Hollywood Brown, we can talk about Christian Watson, we can talk about Terry, we can even talk about Javonte Williams, but
you could also just do the traditional 104 plus a 2025 first, right? If they'd be open to that, which they have their 25 first, and that's a team that you want their 25 first because they're probably not seriously competing at the moment. And he said this team is going to take Brock Bowers, so I get it because of the tight end spot, but again, I mean, this team has more significant needs on the roster than a tight end in a non-tight end premium format. But yeah, any other trade backs you thought of here?
The only other trade back I think of was Justin Jefferson. I know I'm really interested to know what he got Justin Jefferson for. I'm thinking pivot, yeah, because I think of the tier backs and I think of what could I possibly get for Justin Jefferson, tiering down at that position. Okay. You know, can I get a? I'm just gonna throw random names out there, but can I tier down to a Amon-Ra and get a little bit more? Can I tier down to a DJ Moore and get significantly more? You know, and that list can go on to Nico, to Tank, to Brandon Ayuk, to the AJ Browns. I mean, you can even go to Puka, depending on how the Puka player feels about Justin Jefferson, and get more draft capital, because draft capital or depth. You know, can you do a 2 for 2? Like, can I get DJ Moore and, like, I mean, I don't know if you would do this, but I'm just throwing names out. DJ Moore and a Jaden Reed, or DJ Moore and another quarterback.
No, I wouldn't do that.
All right, so like
Jaden Reed and DJ Moore that's not going to move the needle for me.
Yeah, just thinking of different ways and scenarios. Doesn't have to be that, but like getting more.
Why don't we look at the person like it? I'll be honest. Like if I'm open to it, but I'm pivoting to one of the top names.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not going to pivot down. Like, no disrespect to Nico, but I'm not pivoting that far down.
Okay.
So for me, like those names would be CD, Chase, Amon-Ra, Puka, Garrett. I think those are the names I would be comfortable doing. Amon-Ra, Puka, CD, Chase, Garrett, Wilson. Of course, it depends on what that plus is, like you mentioned, but why don't we structure a deal with the team that has Amon-Ra, for example? If you can help me find the Amon-Ra.
Yeah, Amon-Ra is team 1.
So team 1 has Amon-Ra. Might be a little bit more difficult. It looks like he knows what he's doing.
He has CD and Amon-Ra, he has Rice as well.
But I mean, this is a very simple deal. Like if we can get Amon-Ra St. Brown, and we can send Justin Jefferson. And by the way, we don't want, like, I'm not personally actively wanting to send JJ away. It's just if there's like a really good deal out there.
Exactly.
But for example, he has his 2025 first. How valuable will that first be with a team like this? That's tough to say. But like, how about a Rashee Rice and a 25 first, for example? That would definitely be enough for me. And remember, this is most people's wide receiver 1. So a deal like that, I'd be totally fine with the Amon-Ra owner. Who has Garrett Wilson?
He has Garrett Wilson.
He already has Garrett? Okay. Then
yeah, I'm just looking for Puka. Jamar Chase, if he wants to pivot off. A lot of people don't like Jamar Chase.
Mm-hmm.
Or not Jamar. Team 4 has Jamar Chase.
Jamar's going to be a harder pivot, but I do think it's possible.
Here, Team 7 has Puka, if you wanted to do Puka. So he has Puka, Nico Collins, T. Higgins. There's some more intriguing names there. He has his 26 first, or he doesn't have a 25 first, unfortunately. But
yes, Puka, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. So Puka, yeah, that's a tough pivot though. I actually think Chase is an easier pivot with the names that are there. Like Chase, and I wouldn't personally say no to Chase and Achane. Like that would be more than enough for me. I know not everyone's on Achane, and that's fine if people don't agree. But if I can get Jamar Chase, and I don't even think that the average person would do this, but there's no reason not to try and reach out. It's about opening a door and see what that door has for you. But if I can get Chase and Achane, I'm fine. If I can get Chase and even Kyron, I know people don't like Kyron. That's completely fine with me. But like I said, I don't think most people would be open to that move. But yeah, those are some options for you. We talked about pivoting down from picks. We talked about sticking and picking. We talked about some options that you could explore. We talked about pivoting off of Justin Jefferson. Just as many options as we could think of to give you inspiration. But to me, there's not another obvious like trade away. Deshaun Watson is not going to get you proper value right now for the contract he currently has. Gibbs isn't someone we want to move, neither with Kendre. None of those other guys I feel like are giving you the return that's worth pivoting off of. So it's a good team though.
Yeah,
we have good amount of capital to try and build a complete roster here.
Yeah, I would agree there. So I would definitely, looking at the 103 to the 106, I'm not necessarily sure a quarterback's going to be there. Those top 3 quarterbacks.
You reckon?
102 needs a quarterback.
Who is 102 again?
102 is Goats R Us, so that's one. So Caleb Williams, he has.
But he also doesn't have like a solidified wide receiver room, so I wouldn't be shocked if he went Marvin either. Like at the moment, Daniel and Aaron could start. It's an awful quarterback room, but Zay Flowers is your wide receiver one. I mean, that's not going to stop someone from taking Marvin, but it's certainly possible.
I just think he has more depth in the back end of that draft. He has 109, 111. So why not get your quarterback and then get the wide receivers? And hopefully a Bo Nix or a JJ does fall to the 109 because he has 2 second-round picks, 2 middle second-round picks. Anyways.
Yeah.
And then 103.
103, who?
They're going to go Marvin.
Who's the 103?
103 is Show Me Them TDs, Team 3.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
they could go Marvin, but they also have Dak, Bryce. I mean, yeah, it's certainly possible quarterbacks go off the board. But
and then 104, which was Leonard's Team 11, Foreskin.
But like, let's say that were to happen, Badaki, would you be upset about? Let's say you trade back to the 104. Would you be upset about adding Marvin here? I know that we aren't getting the quarterback that we want, but from a value perspective, if you were to trade back, I believe that the picks that went to you, the players that went to you, plus Marvin there is still good value, and you still need to add to your wide receiver room anyway. Obviously, we didn't address the quarterback position in the way that we did, but I still think we played the rookie draft right because we got the most value out of a rookie draft.
Yeah, I think like the value is still going to be there. With that, I think it's just really concerning because if he really wants to compete this year, you throw that out the window. Getting a quarterback no matter what and competing, or getting a quarterback, whether it's any of the top 3, you hope that those guys can hit and are going to compete because you have that any of those top 3 with Deshaun Watson, who once again wasn't amazing.
Yeah.
But then you have your pieces. So
I'm just saying, I think you'll have more flexibility if you trade back, regardless of what the outcome is. But
yeah,
I definitely hear you. Also, I think people are going to find it hard to let Marvin slip with his name and his capital, but we will find out. We got a couple super chats. One's from Too Rich and Bree TV. He says, "Love you guys. Can you read my chat?" So we will take a second here before we go to the next team. And where is his question? I think it's up here. It says, "Hey guys, quick question. 12-team SuperFlex Titan Premium. Would you trade Fields, the 102, the 107, and 25 first for Allen? I got Hurts, Fields, Baker, Henry, Rashad White, Pollard, Cup, McLaurin." So basically, SuperFlex Titan Premium. Would you trade Fields, the 102, the 107, and a 25 first for Josh Allen? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's 3 first-round picks and Justin Fields.
I don't think it's an unreasonable ask from the Allen owner, but no, I would not.
Yeah, that's a hella premium. But yeah, I get it. I get why he wants it. It's Josh Allen.
Yeah. Most teams are not in a position where they can trade for Josh Allen. And most teams who want to trade him away are rightfully asking for a haul. But there's like 10% of teams who are ready to trade for Josh Allen. The guys who have like so much depth, so much capital, and they're just ready to cash in and make things happen. But I don't think that's your team based off of what you sent us. And yeah. He says, "Copy, thinks I was thinking it was too much." No worries. Thank you for the super chat, man. We got one more super chat before we go to the next team from Matt Galore. 1 quarterback, 12 team, start 8. I trade the 109 for the 201 and the 203. 1 quarterback, start 8. If this is a start 10,
yeah, I'm keeping the 109.
I don't know, dude. I mean, are you not willing to trade back 2 spots? It's 12 team.
12 team, yeah, it's pretty significant.
10,
and it's
11,
1 quarterback. So at the 109, That's probably running back range, and where you're falling to at the 201. The Trey Bensons, the Jonathan Brooks, hopefully falls within that range from the 106 to the 109.
Start 8 is why this is hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. My 109 right now is like Worthy, Mitchell, Benson. That's a really good place to be. My 201, sorry, would be a Lloyd, Wright, Caleb Williams, Burton Leggett. Still,
you see it.
Still good, but not that caliber of player.
I think it also depends on what you need. Like, are you in a 1-quarterback league and don't have your quarterback in your top 10? Like, I've been saying this. If you don't have a top 10 quarterback, I'm maybe willing to take the chance on trading back to the 201 and the 203 to get a May, a Daniels, plus another wide receiver there at the 203 or running back. Like, that could be an interesting move depending on your team. But if you have a quarterback, if you have the Josh Allens, the Lamars, or Joe Burrows, I'm wanting to get the best player available, and I think that's probably going to be at the 109.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess I really would love to know how your draft is going to pan out, but we don't. I'd say overall it's decent value, but in a start 8, I want to get the best player, and I think the best player obviously is going to be at the 109. So if you already have good depth, I would just stick with the 109. If you just need depth in a start 8, that feels funny to say, then I'm fine to jump back and get 2 more shots at it. I think if it were me, I probably would take the 2 second-rounders. But logic tells me not to. So do with that information as you want.
It's a tough one. It's a tough one because I mean, yeah. I think the range of people that go at the 109 is still first round value, first round picks, to where the 201 to 203, I think that goes to like middle of the second now. I feel like those early second round picks in the actual NFL draft start going right after that 109. And I'm not saying that's wrong or bad. If you're telling me at the 109, hypothetically, Adonai Mitchell's there, and he went to the Bills and then the first, you probably want him over Marshawn Lloyd, who went in the 4th, hypothetically, and he goes to the 201, and at the 203, you get a Roman Wilson, once again, hypothetically, that went in the 3rd. I think it just depends on the context and who falls.
Last year's draft, like, you're asking yourself Charbonnet or Achane and Flowers almost. That's super flex, but like, do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. Like, it's very difficult.
I kind of would rather just take the shot on 2 chances to hit rather than 1. But I get it.
Yeah.
Because rankings won't always be correct, you know?
Yeah, and that's things going to change. Like, that last year was Charbonnet at the 109 before the NFL draft. After the NFL draft, you didn't want, not that you didn't want the 109. It then pivoted to another player, right?
That's true, but this class is way deeper.
You're right.
Anyway, I'd probably take the picks, but I understand why someone would say to stay. It's not really that far back. I mean, you're moving back 9, 10, 11, 12, 4 spots to get another shot at it. So I would take it. But anyway, thank you for the super chats, guys. We appreciate all the questions. Unfortunately, today isn't a Q&A, so unless there's a super chat, we are going to keep to plan here, which is helping people who are supporting us on the Flock Fantasy website. We do appreciate the super chats, by the way. But if you want your team reviewed, it's very simple. All you need to do is become a Mother Flocker member on the Flock Fantasy website with the promo code LAND. Again, have to use the code LAND, have to be a Mother Flocker member. Once you've done those 2 things, go to account, link your Discord, and then you should get access to the roster submissions tab right here. Just like Zinner had, we just looked at his team, and the next team we're looking at is Kweezy. Kweezy will be the next team that we look at. But again, if you would like your team looked at, then become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. Today is not a Q&A necessarily. I'm sorry, guys. But of course, if there's a super chat, we're not going to ignore that at all. But today's stream is really to help the people who are supporting us on the Flock Fantasy channel with the code LAND. So let's get back to these team reviews. Kweezy's team number 2. And we will put in his information here. Why don't you go ahead and start reading that context for us if you don't mind?
Yeah, Kweezy said, what's going on, boys? Finally got around to making an account and getting set up. Been looking forward to review. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support. League format, 10-team, SuperFlex, half PPR, tight end premium. Starting lineup, quarterbacks to running backs to wide receivers, tight ends to flex. Once again, start 10.
Okay.
Context, going into year 3 of the league, first time for the entire league, so there was some new growing pains at first. Had a solid core last year, but Kyler being out and Mac as my only replacement killed me. Yeah. Wound up trading Kyler for Burrow when my team was out of it. Finished a game outside the playoffs, but don't have my first trading for gifts. I bet you traded for Kyler when Burrow was healthy, and then Burrow got hurt himself.
Yeah, that is
maybe that was
funny.
Way too early in the season, and then Kyler came back and was doing his thing, a classic. Acquired Baker in 2/3 for the 204 earlier today, as well as Godwin and Mitchell. I'm assuming Keaton Mitchell, and a 26 fourth for Mike Williams, Marvin Mims, and a 26 third.
Okay, hold on. I think let's try and so Baker in 2/3 for the 204 in a SuperFlex format. I'm fine with it, but this is a 10 team, so the 204 is really like the 202. I don't know. Like, I'm fine with that. I do think Baker's going to get a long-term deal. I think that's pretty even value. The second deal is Godwin and Keaton Mitchell and a fourth for Mike Williams, Mims, and a third. For me, the Godwin side of this deal wins by a mile.
Yeah, I would want the Godwin side with the youth. Mitchell has some,
he's a fun flyer.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I would have kept him. And I think maybe he wanted the Marvin Mims opportunity there, which I understand.
I think Mike Williams gets cut, so I don't really know where he's playing next year. We don't know what he will be off an ACL that late in his career. But he also said traded Douglas for the 302. In a 10-teamer, I think that's pretty good value.
Yeah, I don't mind that one either. He says, overall, my team has been kind of stuck in the middle tier for all 3 of the years. Feels like I have solid pieces, but I'm missing a true alpha wide receiver to give to be consistent high-end production to push me over the edge. I have been regularly patching holes with my needs and still am lacking running back depth and another proven wide receiver / maybe backup tight end on this team. Not the most fun to review due to the lack of picks this year, but I have 2 firsts in 25, 4 seconds and in 26. Also, I'm exploring trading back up into the second with my thirds or moving Josh Downs, having a current offer for Warren and a 308 for Downs.
I don't like that deal, but we can get a better deal we can talk about.
Yeah. Then when you use a 308, 309, 409 to go up to the 209. I think I'm happy to package those 3s to move up to the second if that person's willing to.
I think there's a better deal than Downs
the Downs one
for Warren and the 308.
Yeah. I would like to plan on taking a hard stance on rebuilding or going into all the trade deadlines this year, but
going all in.
Would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah.
So he's basically saying like he's been middle of the pack. He wants to have an established plan. Am I rebuilding? Am I competing? I want it to be crystal clear. We can definitely help with that after we look at the team. And we do have Kweezy in the chat, by the way. He says yes, sir. Elijah
Mitchell, not Keaton Mitchell. Okay, so
Godwin, Elijah Mitchell. I just think Godwin is the most valuable piece in that deal by far. So I think I'm still going Godwin, but it's not like an awful deal, by the way. But I think the problem is if you've already acquired Baker Mayfield, you might have already put yourself in a position where you should compete. But let's look at the team. Remember, 10-team SuperFlex half PPR tight end premium, and it's a start 10. Do we know his team?
Bags. Yeah, the booze bags.
So he's 4th.
Yeah, he's 4th, which doesn't look terrible. I think he's still competing. It's not huge gaps in between. It feels like, at least from after your team, it kind of goes to a huge gap. But let's see. Quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield. So I think your quarterback room is fine.
It's a great room. You just
I think
got really
start.
unfortunate last year.
Yeah, 100%. Running backs: Jahmyr Gibbs, James Cook, Elijah Mitchell. So your top 2 guys are your foundation here. There's no depth on this team, but I think having James Cook and Gibbs is phenomenal.
I just realized that he got Godwin in that deal, by the way.
He got Godwin.
So it's a good deal. We just misunderstood.
Okay. Wide receivers, which once again, before we move on, it's 3 wide receivers, 2 flex. So you have the opportunity to start 5. It's start 10. Brandon Ayuk, Tank Dell, T. Higgins, Jaden Reed, Josh Allen, Chris Godwin, Hollywood Brown, Jahan Dotson, and I would just throw Zay Jones in there. So I would say about 9 players, decent wide receivers you have here.
It doesn't feel like we have like a true like number 1. We've got like so many good tier 2 wide receivers, tier 3 wide receivers, but we don't really have like that heavy hitter. There might be a way we can accomplish that, but at tight end, he's great. He's got Andrews and Dulcich in a tight end premium. Again, this team was unlucky. Last year, he talked about how he had Kyler, then he traded for Burrow. Burrow got injured. He had Mark Andrews got injured. So this is definitely a team that is competing. There's no reason looking at your team right here, right now, that you shouldn't compete. You're good at tight end. You're great at quarterback. You're fine at running back. And you've got a good wide receiver core. You just don't have like a solid, like, you don't have a Jefferson and a Monroe. You don't have a Chase. The picks that we have this year are very limited. You know, our first pick is the 302, the 303, the 309, and the 404. And keep in mind, this is a 10-man league. So those thirds are a little bit more valuable. In fact, I probably wouldn't package the 302 and the 303 to go into like the late second in this scenario. I wouldn't package those to get the 209. If I'm packaging my 302, my 303, my 309, I'm trying to get into the early second, like 201 to 206, 204 range, because this is a deep class and you've got a 10-man league. So those picks are more valuable. We should treat the 302 and the 303 like a late second, like the 208 to the 212 in this format.
What's the premium, by the way? If you could put that in the chat. Is this a huge premium? Yeah. It's probably just half point because it's a plus on keep trade cut here. So it's probably 0.5. So it's not too significant.
So he probably, you know, now that we're looking at it, I think he got Baker and those 2 thirds, and I think he had the 204. So if I'm not mistaken, I believe the trade that he made is he got Baker and he got
he acquired Baker in 2 thirds for the 204.
2 of those early thirds. 2024 early. Okay, do we not have? Okay, so we only got the thirds. And he sent away the 204, so an early second. And looking at that trade now in a SuperFlex format, I actually kind of love it. Would you agree?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Getting your 3rd quarterback there. Which you kind of learned your lesson last year, right? With Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray, and then you get Baker Mayfield. I think it's a good move. What do you think about it?
At running back, I don't feel a need to really make any move right now. I'm fine to ride those 2 guys into the season. What I would say is I'm not opposed after free agency and after the NFL draft at using one of these names to kind of strengthen that wide receiver or that running back room. You know, the like the Downs, the Godwins, the Hollywoods, the Dotsons. Like, let's talk about some wide receivers that come to mind. I don't know if you're on the same page with me with that idea, but Alvin Kamara, if he becomes a starter, if he's still the starter, right? Like week 1, Ramondre Stevenson. If DeAndre Swift finds a really good gig somewhere, your Najee Harris's of the world, Derrick Henry depends on where he goes. Probably not, but like Brian Robinson for sure. Tajay Spears. Those are the kind of names I'm like looking at pivoting to once the dust settles if they're in good situations, because I do think we could afford to lose some of these wide receivers and gain a third running back we really like more towards September.
Yeah, I don't mind those guys, especially in a team that's more of a win now scenario. So getting somebody like that, I think it's really going to help when you think about it. So I would agree. I mean, you can throw James Conner in there as well. Yeah. You could throw, I think you said Kendrick Miller. Mm-hmm. I would even throw Jaylen Warren in that conversation. Tony Pollard, depending on depends on all that situations happens. But that's the risk, you know, once free agency happens, once the NFL draft happens, and these guys, you know, Tony Pollard is still in the Cowboys and they don't draft another running back. His price goes right back up.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be spending that. So I think maybe in the scenarios, we should be taking risks a little bit here on trying to acquire somebody before their value rises. But maybe that's something we can talk about once again as we get into it.
The one idea that really came to mind to me is like this team just doesn't have like a heavy hitter yet at wide receiver. We've got good names, but I don't want to lose Tank Dell or T. Higgins, but I also feel like those are the names I would try to use to pivot up. So that is the first thing that came to mind to me, and we'll go to the whiteboard here, but we want to pivot up to wide receiver. So Tank Dell or T. Higgins. I just put Tiggins on accident. Or T. Higgins, and like we want to add like plus a Josh Downs or a Marquise Brown, or what are these other names, or Godwin, or Chris Godwin here. We can also add like the 302 if we want, or the 303. I'm not saying you have to do all these. I'm just giving you like options in a package, and we want to target some bigger names. So for me, when I look at my rankings, those bigger names, let me see here. Those bigger names, again, we're going from Tank Dell, my wide receiver 16, T. Higgins, my wide receiver 21. But I want to know if I can get into like the A.J. Brown range, the Tyreek range. Tyreek might be actually doable because of his age. DJ Moore, I don't know if Puka's realistic, but there's no harm in like trying to in trying. But I think DJ Moore is super realistic. But I don't know if I would like look DJ Moore. I think we can aim higher than DJ Moore. AJ Brown, I think. So as well. AJ Brown and is probably the names we're looking at. AJ Brown, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua. Do you agree?
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree in there. I'm just looking for teams that maybe don't have 25 capital.
Who has AJ Brown in this league?
Team 2.
Team 2, are they competing?
It's AJ Brown and Amon-Ra. Yeah, a lot of these teams are competing. 10 team.
So that's
gonna be the hard part. That's why I'm trying
not gonna work.
That's why I'm trying to find teams that don't have first in this year. That's probably struggling a little bit. That maybe want to invest in 2025.
The teams that are weaker. There's really man. This league is tough. I mean, probably Team 8 still thinks they're competing as well.
That's what I'm saying. 25 now.
Yeah, this is a really tough league, I think. Most of these people probably think they're competing right now.
I think everyone.
But let's say for example, Puka Nacua from Team 6. Can we send him T. Higgins plus R303 or 302, whatever, plus downs for Puka Nacua. That is at least like a starting point. Would you be willing to do that for Puka? I would.
Yeah, it's a starting point. Let's see what happens.
But there's not many like really obvious partners here. Maybe Team 5, we can shoot for the moon with Justin Jefferson, because they don't have any picks this year to address quarterback, and they don't really have much depth, and they don't have a tight end that they love either. So Jefferson actually could be realistic, but we're going to have to shoot higher. I think it needs to be Tank Dell, probably plus your 2025 first for Justin Jefferson. What would you think of that as a starting point?
I think so as well. I mean,
who is a cellar
dweller?
dweller?
I know he doesn't have a heavy hitter, but like these guys.
This team, I don't want to be in the middle. This is a in the middle team for me. Give me someone that puts me apart. That's not we're not saying this is a bad wide receiver room. I just don't think it's like putting. Is this wide receiver room going to win a championship? I don't know. If they all hit on the same day, maybe.
I mean, he had Jaden Reed, who was a league winner. Tank Dell, if he played the full season, league winner. Brandon. Like, all these guys, yeah, like, maybe not in the same day, for sure. Like, I get it. I'm just thinking now,
Are any of these wide receivers in your top 10 of your rankings?
I have Tank Dell just outside.
So the answer would be no. How often does someone win a championship without a top 10 wide receiver?
I mean, it's not often, but it's doable.
That doesn't feel like something I'm betting on, but
I'm not saying that like I don't want to do this. I'm just thinking more of like it's gonna be hard to get some of these guys. You're gonna have to give up in a 10-man league. It feels like it doubles. So if you want a Justin Jefferson, if you want an Amon-Ra, you can probably get them for what we're suggesting at the moment, which is like T. Higgins, Josh Downs, for Puka. Like, I don't think we would be doing that if we were in a 10-man league.
No, I don't think not everyone is as smart as not smart as us.
And I think some like Tank Dell in the 25 first. I look at that, I was like, oh, that's intriguing. But like, I still want Justin Jefferson, so I'm thinking of the price being significantly higher in this league.
It should be
because
I'll add Josh Downs there if he wants it. I don't care. Again, like, is Josh Downs in a 10-man league, dude? Is Josh Downs helping me win a championship?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
We're in the middle of the pack. We don't want to. You just said that at the beginning.
Yeah, and I think this league looks fairly smart based off of how these teams are built.
Well, what is a door you'd want him to open then?
Well, it's not about it's not about necessarily wanting him to open. I'm thinking like you might have to sacrifice 225 first to get something like a Justin Jefferson, to get something like a CD Lamb.
That's fine, but we're trying to give him a starting point though. What would you say is a starting point for a deal you like then?
I think that's what I'm trying to say. I don't think me sending Tank Dell and a 25 first in somebody's eyes is going to be enough. I think they're going to want capital if they're not in that 25 first range. And I think if that's the case, I might be willing to do that if I'm competing now. 225 first for CeeDee Lamb right now, that changes his team significantly, and he doesn't lose any depth. I'm not necessarily sure if he wants to do that because I know he probably wants to be in the 25 pick.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think that's really going to change your outlook for the next, because you don't have picks in 25 and 24, and you're not going to have picks in 25. And you can't even split that. Be like, hey, I gave you one in 25 and in 26 because you don't have your 26 first.
So, if you need to do those deals, you can tell us in the fantasy hotline. But I guess, Badaki, like, what is a starting point that you would suggest him to get into a door for a player that you like? Because, yes, it could cost more, but we're trying to get him in the door to start a conversation.
Right. Well, yeah, sure. The starting point is this. I would agree. This is the starting point. I'm just thinking maybe you just go straight for it instead of I guess lollygagging maybe. if I'm predicting the way this league is, once again, I'm looking at every single team. They all look fairly good. They all look fairly smart. Not every team feels fairly balanced, and maybe that is the thing for some 10-man leagues. That's all I'm basically trying to say. Like, you know what? You probably just got to go straight for it. Give them a deal that they can't refuse, and then once that deal happens, because we both agree, once they get that top wide receiver,
why wouldn't you try to start at a point that's more reasonable?
Sure.
There's no like, were they gonna say no?
Yeah, there's no
like they say no, and then you try again. But I don't know. It's like we don't want him to give. We want him to get the best players for as little as possible.
I would agree there. I would agree.
Got any other ideas you want to spark here for him?
I mean, that's about it. I think you just have to continue going with those heavy hitters. Look, if Hollywood Brown gets an extension, that'd be intriguing for some people. Jahan Dotson with Drake May comes in. I think you should be okay moving some of these guys. The only other thing I would say is depth. Getting depth at the running back position is going to be key here with those third-round picks. And those third-round picks essentially is late seconds in a 10-man league. So from the Bucky Irvings, the Jalen Wrights, depending on where they go, Marshawn Lloyds, the Aldrich Estimes, I think in those third-round picks, you want to hit on that running back depth.
Sure. No, I hear you. Yeah. Does Kweezy have any specific questions in the chat that he'd like to ask us? Maybe we can let him ask us here. It's his time to shine. But in my perspective, I think you're definitely trying to compete right now. The team that you've built is very good. I feel very good about your quarterbacks. I feel good about your running backs until about September. We can look at that. Tight end doesn't need to be addressed. But for me, you don't have a wide receiver that I would point to and say, you know, when I'm lining up against this team in the playoffs, I'm nervous because that guy can give you 30 every week, give you 25 every week. Would love to get a Jefferson, a Puka, a Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson's probably cheaper because he hasn't really broken out yet. So you could probably do T. Higgins plus a 2025 first. And I think you could probably get Garrett Wilson and a second, in my opinion. Could be wrong. But worth trying to get you into as many doors as you possibly can. But those are the doors I'd open. And we always say most doors are not going to be opened. Most doors, people don't want to send players away. But you could also go the route where you're mid-season, and who is the Mike Evans of this year? You know, does this guy who is called the cellar dweller, is Mike Evans still popping off next year and it's week 5 and you're like, damn, I could really use like a heavy hitter here? Well, how about you just send them a 2025 second and go out and get you a Mike Evans to really put your team over the top? You know, in a redraft league, maybe that's a top 10 wide receiver at the time, and you add some more heavy hitters instead of relying on if Josh Downs pops off one week. You just don't know when to start those guys as you're heading into the playoffs. You know, is Godwin reliable? He was never reliable last year. Maybe that changes. What team does Hollywood go to? Does Dotson actually take a second step? So instead of asking those questions, you've got more solidified options. And just remember, like, you've got your hotline. At the end of the day, if you're in week 5 and you're feeling good, you don't have to make moves. But let's say it's a week before the trade deadline and you're like, man, I really feel close. The point is to win the championship, right? Don't be afraid if you need to spend some capital, move some players to actually, you know, get there, to actually get to the mountaintop. Kweezy says, would it be better to wait till the deadline to try and grab one of those elite options?
Like the trade deadline, like within season?
That is certainly not something that you like couldn't do. Like, you could absolutely wait.
Would it be? I wonder if it might be too late by then. Like,
well, just keeping in mind that I'm sure the other teams in your league, like for example, the guy who has Justin Jefferson, we don't think his team's going to be very good. Think about everyone else in your league who's competing. It's rare, if your trade deadline's week 13, it's rare that someone hasn't sent him 20 offers by that time, you know?
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind. Like, there's no reason not to test the water. We don't have any concerns around Justin Jefferson giving us fantasy points. But You also don't have to force anything either. Kweezy says also, any fear of the Colts adding wide receiver in free agency? Look,
I think it's a big possibility.
I've just not been a Downs guy this entire offseason. I know a lot of people value him highly. I like him as a player. I just don't trust that situation. I don't trust that Michael Pittman, if they add another name, we don't know if A-Rich can support Pittman in a full year.
I mean, I think that's the biggest concern. So like, yeah, they can bring somebody else in. But I think my bigger concern will be if can Anthony Richardson support somebody else. Yeah, they can bring in somebody, but like Anthony Richardson has to support somebody first before he can before we get into they need to bring in concerned about somebody else coming in. So
like in any of these deals that we talked about, to get Puka, to get Jefferson, like I do not care if I need to add Josh Downs in that deal. If they're giving us the same production as they were last year, I do not care if this needs to be Josh Downs instead of a second to go out and get Mike Evans if it's week 10 and Mike Evans is still what he was last year, you know?
Yeah.
Because remember, at the end of the day, yes, you don't have picks this year that are enticing. You don't want to force a trade to get rid of your first next year. Those are still valuable. But at the end of the day, the goal is to win a championship.
Yeah.
But Kweezy, let us know if you have any final questions before we move on to the next team. Anything you want to say, Badaki, that's final on this one?
No, use your hotline, brother. Or if you have any trades come through or any, offers, use your fantasy hotline. We'll definitely give you our 2 cents and what we would do, what we wouldn't do over there. But we appreciate you. Thank you so much for the support.
Yes. And we will answer the super chats before we get into the next team. And of course, we'll wait if Kweezy has any final questions. He says, currently in the middle of a Dynasty startup, got offered Tua Pickens for Bryce Young Pittman. Yeah, I would just stick with Tua and Pickens personally if it's SuperFlex.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't believe in Bryce Young. Maybe this just shows that I think Pittman's a buy low. I don't know, but like
I think it's fairly even. Because like you take a risk with Bryce Young, but on the other side you take a risk with Pickens. In the SuperFlex league, it feels like you probably want to lean on the quarterback that has had success in Tua and Pickens. So
I asked myself, what would Pickens have done with Gardner Minshew last year? That guy put up over 1,100 receiving yards with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and old mate Mason Rudolph. For me, I just would rather stay strong at quarterback. That's why I'm going Tua.
Yeah.
But it's very close. Kweezy says, appreciate it, gents. No worries. I'm glad we could help. All right, we got time for one more team tonight. We wanted to get through a couple more, but I got to move. I got to pack literally my entire setup down and start packing. So this will be the last team that we review tonight, and it will be...
almost done or what?
What do you mean?
Like, is your house packed, do you feel? Or not really?
Nah.
It's going to be like an all-night thing?
It's going to be... The next 3 days are not going to be fun. That's what I'll say. I hate.
Oh, it's gonna be a 3-day move, right? You're gonna prolong it because you're moving down the block. Yeah. That's gonna be the worst. You just gotta get it on all one day, in and out.
We hope it's not 3 days, but we have that timeline in case we need it. But obviously not excited at all about the move. No one likes to move.
Yeah.
All right, the next team is Fordejake. He's not going to be on the stream, but that's okay. We have all the information we need, and we will absolutely do our best here. Go ahead and read the context here as I find his team.
Yeah, he said, fellas, how are you? How are you, man? Appreciate you.
We're good.
Thank you for
pleasant.
Yeah, he says, I'm joining the crew and excited to review my team. Zach, you have been putting in the work and you made join the flock, so shout out to you. That's awesome. You. League format, 10-team, SuperFlex, start 9, no tight end premium, half PPR, and 6-point passing touchdowns. Quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end flex. So you can start up to 4 wide receivers in this league. Came up short in the chip this past season, but looking to contend again. Draft capital is light because we made some moves for a playoff push. Love making moves in our league is pretty active, which is awesome. Although the league has been quiet the last few weeks, naturally, most recent trades was acquiring Tyreek and Tajay and moving off Nico and Saquon. Could be some strong opinions on that one, he says. Yeah. That is a tough one. I think Nico kind of falls really close within that tier with Tyreek Hill now with CJ Stroud.
Yeah.
And I know Saquon Barkley is an older prospect and Tajay kind of showing some light to the end of the tunnel, but they
Where
can
does
still draft
Saquon end up? That's the question. Let's say Saquon's a 3-year deal in Houston.
I mean, even if Saquon is a 3-year deal in New York, you probably still want Saquon.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but yes, I mean, his value can rise and he can have significantly more production if he does go to Houston, if he does go to the Chargers, if he does go to the Ravens, right? Hypothetically. Nonetheless, would love some opinions on what my next move should be and the things I can do to continue my push to win the championship. Also, should I be recouping some 25 draft capital? Had an offer for Rachaad White, which includes a late 25 first, second, third, and 2 fourths.
Damn.
Just for Rachaad White, I think I would do that immediately. I declined, but still could be on the table, although like at running back.
He's competing, so we'll have to look at that.
Yeah, that's probably why you declined, because you probably wanted to compete. Side note, if you can review my team on the back half of the live stream. Okay, yes. We appreciate you, man.
Shout out to the 2 toddlers.
Yeah, shout out to the little ones. I get it. You got to put them to sleep. All right, Herb Stomper. Once again, 10 team, SuperFlex, start 9, no time in premium, half PPR. Quarterbacks, Justin Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, Dak Prescott. I think that's phenomenal start. You keep those guys, you set and forget, and you have the depth in a SuperFlex league with the injuries.
I just looked at his picks.
Oh, boy.
I mean, that makes sense why you didn't give up Rachaad White. Continue, sorry.
Running backs. Oh, by the way, quarterbacks, you set and forget. It was probably really unlucky last year with Justin Herbert and Trevor Lawrence getting injured. So that went to shit. But I think a lot of people was in that situation, no question. Running back, CMC, White, Spears, Chuba, Miles Sanders, Deion Jackson. So look, I get it. Why not sending Rachaad White? Especially if you want to compete this year.
I think there's enough there for me to send Rachaad away, and if I do need to, if Tajay's not pulling the weight or Chuba,
exactly,
then I can use that first I got and package them in season, or go get a vet, go get a Kamara or something.
Yeah, and that's what I was gonna say. So like, you get Rachaad White, you have Rachaad White, you get all that capital, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 picks, even though 2 of them are in the 4th. But you get 5 picks in 25 for Rachaad White.
Remember, this is a 10-team too, so the worst that can be is the 110.
Yeah, 100%. So
I think we take that deal if it's back on the table.
And what have you been saying so far? The running back class in 2025 is most likely going to be one of the best, or
it looks
really good,
very good right now.
Yeah, it looks very good at the moment. And I think the fact that you have Tajay Spears and you made that trade, I think indicates that maybe that's something that you should go out and do, is getting that trade. Anyways.
Yeah, I like that trade if it's still on the table.
Wide receivers, once again, he can start up to 4 wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Tyreek Hill are your starting 4 with the addition.
You said he can only start 4? Is that right?
2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Up to 4.
Damn, I mean, okay, I know how we play this. Keep going.
So your top 4 starting at the moment: Amon-Ra, Wilson, Olave, Hill. With the additions at depth is T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown. That's all I'm going to say respectfully.
Let's just free you of the tyranny. Kadarius Toney's on the waiver wire. You're gone.
Shout out to Kadarius Toney, huh?
MVS is on the waiver wire. You're gone.
Shout out to MVS, huh?
KJ Osborne, Super Bowl champion. MVS. KJ Osborne, you can probably keep him. But at least those two names you no longer need. Maybe David Bell.
I would throw Bo in that. Cut.
He was good last year, though. I mean, I'll hold on to Bo. But anyway, you're great at tight end. Hawkinson, Kelsey, Ingram. Is this a tight end premium format?
This is no tight end premium,
tight end
actually.
premium.
But I mean, you could definitely sell one of those tight ends depending on a team. Well, it is 10 men, so that might be a bit difficult, actually.
If I can get like a mid-second for Evan, I would do that with the. So let's talk about what players. Okay, there's two things I really want to talk about: recoup picks, which we don't have to, and scenario 2, which I want to talk about, is consolidation. I spelled it wrong. Anyway, so let's talk about the first one, which is recouping picks. Let's talk about names that we can sell. Evan Ingram. Ideally, we want to get a second. Would you agree?
Yep.
Who else on this team comes to mind? We talked about Rashad White, and he is going to get a first, second, and what was it?
First, second, third, and 2 fourths.
Yeah, we'll take that deal all day. What else could we sell on this team? I'm not saying you have to sell him. No, we keep Dak. We want those 3. We're competing. We don't move those guys.
I think the next people you can sell is the second tier of players. He has the 105 at the moment, which looks like that's going to be what, Neighbors or Rome.
Yeah, let's make that Neighbors. That would be awesome.
So I'm happy to tier off of Higgins, Kirk, or I would even throw Olave in that, depending, I think we've been big on tiering off of Olave. What can we get? I would say my 3 guys I would be okay pivoting or listening to pivoting off of is Olave, Hill, and Higgins.
I want to keep
not
Hill.
so much.
I don't want to move him right now, personally. But I agree with you, Olave, Higgins.
Yeah, Olave, Higgins will probably be the best ones we could potentially try and pivot off of and tier up in some sort of way.
I guess that's like scenario 3 though, because we're not technically consolidating, and I don't really mind keeping Olave on this kind of team. But we'll talk about pivot options. I just feel like in this team in particular, starting 4 wide receivers, 10 man, I'd rather consolidate. But consolidate options, you talked about T. Higgins. You talked about T. Higgins is really the one that comes to mind for me. But Higgins, Kirk, Brown.
Yeah, I think those would be the 3 that you can potentially consolidate if. I mean, Christian Kirk had a good year. This past year, just got injured. Hollywood Brown didn't have Kyler Murray. Now he's probably going to get Marvin Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors. T. Higgins also was injured and didn't have Joe Burrow. The options are there for these guys, and the upside is there, for these guys.
So these guys can go on the block, and we'll see what offers come back for them. Because if we get a second for Christian Kirk, we don't need Christian Kirk on this team. Take the second round pick. For T. Higgins, I want to package him with something Hollywood. I want to package him with, we don't have many picks, but Hollywood, Ingram, one of those 2 names probably, Kirk, and I want to move up a tier. So like the names that come to mind for me: Higgins, Hollywood, Ingram, Kirk. I'm trying to get in the DJ Moore range, Nico Collins. I'm trying to get in the AJ Brown range, Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Right. Garrett Wilson, DJ Moore, AJ Brown. That's the kind of range we're trying to get into there. Would you agree?
Yeah, agreed.
Because at the end of the day, you can only start 4 wide receivers. So Higgins, if we lose Higgins and Kirk and Hollywood, that's actually okay. Because we turned it into AJ. We turned it into Garrett or Puka or whatever. Does any of these teams make sense for those names we talked about?
Technically, yes. if this player wanted, I mean, we want to tier up? That's the thing. We want to get proven assets instead of capital.
Who has AJ Brown?
We could get capital here.
Team 7 has AJ Brown. And they probably want to compete, so that might be tough. They don't have any picks. That's going to be a tough get.
The person that is dominating this draft is Team 1.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all those picks he has. 3, 4, 6, 8, 10. The 201 essentially to the 210.
Mm-hmm.
Or 29.
Yeah. What are you thinking there then?
Probably not necessarily consolidating, but maybe like I'm thinking the first person I'm thinking of is Travis Kelce. Can I pivot off Travis Kelce and just get a second? Is he worth a second? He doesn't have a tight end. He's probably going to get Brock Bowers anyway.
No, dude. But we're competing right now.
I think you're okay to move off of him though, because you have Ingram and TJ. I know TJ's hurt.
I get it, but Kelce, while he looked bad, could still be the #1 scoring tight end next year. I just feel like,
look, that's fine. That's fine.
Worth getting a second rather than having him on the roster, sending him to our biggest competitor. I don't know that I would do that.
Sure. I'm just trying to see who else has stuff here. I think everyone, once again, 10-man league is very interesting. Trying to consolidate. Where's Jamar
I'm gonna
Chase?
highlight names that mean nothing to me. I mean, every single one of these names, I would package any amount of these names to get a second, to get a second in 2025, to package up to go get a lower tier wide receiver that's better than these names. The names that come to mind to me is like, can I get a Cooper Kupp somehow who's aging, who might still be good next year? A Deontay Johnson, Keenan Allen would be a great fit for this team. DeAndre Hopkins. Those are the kind of names I'm thinking of when I look at all the names that I just highlighted. But yeah, once we move off Rachaad White, our starting lineup, which is, you said start 9, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, right? Okay. So our starting lineup is probably going to look like Justin Herbert and Dak Prescott. Trevor can flex in there when we need him. Our running backs are going to be Christian McCaffrey and Tajay Spears. That's 4. Our wide receivers are going to be Amon-Ra, Garrett Wilson, Olave, Tyreek. That's 9. No, that's 8. And then we're going to start TJ or Kelce, depending on who's competing. So that team is definitely getting you in the playoffs. And by the way, the 105 might end up being Malik Neighbors. But yeah, look, at the end of the day, there's not like a ton of moves you can make with this team. If we're being 100% honest, you need to compete. You have no picks. You have really good players to compete with right now. And the only moves that you can really make is consolidating some of these names into bigger names, like we talked about. Moving off of T. Higgins, packaging Higgins with Kirk and Hollywood, packaging Higgins, Hollywood, Ingram, Kirk in some sort of order. We talked about getting future draft capital with Evan Ingram, that Rachaad White deal we would take, in season. If you need to use that future first round pick or one of these seconds for a veteran running back, we can do that. Walk us through the Kelce pivot you talked about. I don't think I would personally be doing it because I'm competing, but what was the Kelce pivot?
I just think that we have the depth to do that. If you wanted to get into this draft or wanted to get more depth at the draft picks, specifically, I'm happy to pivot based off of the top 3. Unless you right now, I think we can both agree pivoting off of TJ Hawkinson is probably the worst time because of his injury. Evan Ingram is probably the best one, which you definitely said.
Mm-hmm.
But I would also say Travis Kelce is somebody that I'll be okay moving off of and trying to get more draft capital, whether that's a second in 24 or second in 25, because that automatically changes. That can automatically changes things and get you in that draft capital for next year. So I mean, that's basically what I was trying to say when it comes down to one of the biggest things that he said was like he wants to get some capital, right? Like, and I think
I agree.
Kelsey is somebody that can instantly get you capital, and then.
But I also think Kelsey could be the reason you lose a championship to one of your biggest contenders.
Mm-hmm.
You have to decide if a second round pick is worth it, but.
Yeah. So I get it. I think there's two sides of the coin there, which can definitely skew you either way.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I would agree. Once again, 10-man leagues is very difficult here to really do what you want to do because every team is really significant. We can tier. One of the things that we've always talked about was like sending Chris Olave and getting like Rashee Rice and something.
I just don't like it for this league. Not when I'm starting 4 wide receivers. I just don't like that. But I mean, let's talk about it.
One of the things we always Rashee Rice is team 6, name not found. What is enough in your mind then for Rashee Rice? I'm assuming, do you have Rashee Rice over Olave in your rankings?
No, I have Olave ahead of him, but it's not very far. But if we can get Rice in the 2025 first, I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and I think that's what for you to get that capital as well. Once again, I think you kind of emphasized him wanting to get draft capital there.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, get Rashee Rice, get a 25 first.
In any other league, I'm probably like all aboard that deal. It's just, again, only starting 4, 10-man. It makes me a little more hesitant is all I'm saying.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's fair. And that's fair. I think it just all depends on how you perceive, Rashee Rice or Chris Olave or what that looks like if the points per game is significantly different. I think that's how I'm viewing it. But yes, like all depends on how you want to see that there, Jake.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that's the name that I would definitely do personally. I think we have been big advocates of like the Londons and all that, but I think that's where it gets shaky.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I just like Rashee Rice with Patrick Mahomes overall.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I agree. Look, unfortunately there wasn't like a lot of creativity in this team review, but hopefully Jake is okay with that because there's just not a lot of wiggle room with this team. I mean, we can tell you to like tear it down and get a bunch of draft capital, but that would be stupid because you have a good team and you should be competing right now. So there's a limited amount of moves that you can make. Hopefully that is helpful. Please feel free to hit us up in the DMs if you have any questions, but stick with your quarterbacks. There's no reason to move on from them. Rachaad White deal, if you can get that pivot, that would be great. You keep in CMC this year trying to go for a chip. I actually like the Tyreek Hill deal personally that he made because, again, thinking about trying to win right now, I think that's one of the best names that you would want on your team. We talked about consolidating from T. Higgins to try and get one of those names. We talked about pivoting off of Olave for Rice. We talked about trying to recoup picks with Evan Ingram, Travis Kelce.
Yeah.
But anything else you want to say before we end the stream?
Now, once again, always use your fantasy hotline, brother. Once you watch it over, if you have any other questions there, Jake, use fantasy hotline. We'll get back to you and send any trades that come into your inbox as well our way so we can have a conversation.
Yeah, I agree. That is it for today, guys. We appreciate you. Again, if you want your team reviewed on the stream, it's very simple. All you need to do is become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND, and then you will unlock the ability to have us look at your team. Go to instant access when you sign up if you don't want to wait for that trial to end. But that's it. Do us a favor, hit the like button as we end today's stream. Badaki will be solo dolo tomorrow. But we appreciate you. We'll see you soon. All love.
Love.